I'm a doctor. My intern killed a patient, and the hospital forced me to sign an NDA. I've worked in medicine for over a decade. I've seen people die. I've made mistakes. I've saved lives. I've stitched up gunshot wounds, delivered babies, comforted families in waiting rooms. But nothing prepared me for what happened that night or for what I was asked to do afterward. Let me start from the beginning. I was in my 4th year as an attending physician at St. James Memorial in Chicago. The ER was chaos, most nights understaffed, overwhelmed, and underfunded. But I loved my job. I loved training residents, seeing them grow. I took pride in being a mentor. Then came Matt. Matt was a 2nd-year intern. He was smart, cocky, yes, but sharp. He reminded me of myself at that age. And maybe that's why I didn't see it coming. It was a Thursday night 2 weeks into his ER rotation. I was just coming off a double shift and about to clock out when the call came in: a 34-year-old male, found unresponsive in his apartment. Possible drug overdose. Paramedics said he had a faint pulse. ETA 4 minutes. Matt volunteered to take the case. "I've got it," he said confidently. "You go home, doc." I paused. It was technically cleared for solo response with supervision. I was dead tired, and I trusted him. I shouldn't have. The patient, Kyle Jameson, arrived barely conscious, barely breathing. Matt intubated him. I wasn't there to see it. I didn't realize anything had gone wrong until 30 minutes later, when I was halfway to my car and heard a code blue over the hospital intercom. I ran back in. Kyle was gone. Flatline, pronounced dead, at 9:27 p.m. There was confusion. The ER nurses looked shaken. One of them, Angela, took me aside and said something didn't feel right. "He didn't check the airway properly," she whispered. "I think he put the tube in the esophagus." "What?" He panicked. By the time respiratory came in and fixed it, it was too late. I confronted Matt. He was pale, sweating, shaking. "Two thought I had it," he said. "I swear to God I triple-checked placement." I felt the resistance. He stopped mid-sentence and sat down, staring at nothing. "That should have been the end of it. We should filed an incident report. Called in risk management. Informed the family. Let the system investigate." But the hospital had other ideas. The next morning, I was called into a meeting with the head of emergency medicine, a legal advisor, and someone from PR. They said the patient's father was a city councilman, very high profile. This couldn't become a scandal. "We need to protect the institution," the lawyer said. "Matt's a student. He's not licensed," the PR woman added. "Technically, responsibility falls on you." I was stunned. "You're saying this is my fault?" "No," the chief said. "But if we document this officially, the family could sue for millions. It could bring down the whole program." Then, they handed me a piece of paper, a non-disclosure agreement. It said I would not speak about the incident to anyone, not to the patient's family, not to the press, not to the board, not even in medical notes. In exchange, the hospital would not pursue disciplinary action. Matt's error would be internally addressed, and Kyle's death would be listed as a complications due to underlying drug use. I sat there, heart pounding. "He died because the tube was in his stomach," I said. "Not because of drugs." The lawyer leaned forward. "If you don't sign, this falls on you. You supervised the rotation. You were the attending on duty." I wasn't. Matt had said he'd handle it, but it was my name on the shift log. They gave me the weekend to think it over. I didn't sleep for 72 hours. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Kyle's face. I saw his parents getting the call. I imagined his funeral. I wanted to report it. I really did. But if I did, I'd lose everything. My license, my career, my reputation, years of school, all gone. Monday morning, I signed. Signing that NDA felt like injecting poison into my own veins. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic, no thunderstorm outside, no dramatic music. Just a pen on paper and a knot in my gut that's never really gone away. I went back to work the next day like nothing had happened. Except everything had. I couldn't look at Matt the same way. He returned to his duties like nothing was wrong, but he avoided eye contact. He kept his head down, never brought up Kyle's name, never asked if I was okay. Maybe he was just trying to survive. Maybe he was already unraveling inside. But to me, it felt like cowardice. Angela, the nurse who first whispered the truth to me, also started keeping her distance. I think she could tell I'd caved. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was disappointed. Either way, her usual warmth turned cold. And the worst part, Kyle's parents came to the ER. They wanted to meet the team that tried to save their son. His mother hugged me. She was crying, said we were angels, said Kyle had struggled with addiction, but he was finally trying to get clean. He'd just started a new job. He was dating someone. They were proud of him. We don't blame you, she said. We know these things happen. I nodded, swallowed hard, said nothing. I felt like a criminal. The next few weeks were a blur. I couldn't sleep. I drank more than I should have. I stopped returning my friends' texts. I started snapping at my colleagues over stupid things. My hands would tremble during sutures. I wanted to tell someone, anyone. But every time I thought about speaking out, I remembered the NDA, the clause that said if I breached it, not only could I be sued into oblivion, but I could face criminal charges for violating patient confidentiality. They had me, and they knew it. Then, about 2 months later, the second incident happened. A 70-year-old woman came in with chest pain. Her EKG was abnormal St. elevations, textbook signs of a heart attack. She needed cath lab immediately. Matt was on intake again. This time, I was on shift. I hadn't left for the night. I shadowed him more closely, pretending to just be double-checking residents like always. And that's when I saw it. He froze, like actual deer in headlights froze. He looked at the monitor, then at the chart, then back again. He hesitated, muttered something under his breath, reached for the wrong medication. I stepped in. Matt, I said sharply, what are you doing? He blinked. I was just, she's having a STEMI. She needs to go to cath lab now. Page cardiology and get her moving. He just stood there. I took the chart out of his hand and did it myself. The patient survived. Barely. Had we waited even 10 more minutes, she might not have. Later that night, I pulled Matt aside. You're not ready, I said. You froze up again. He looked at me with wide eyes. I didn't know. Bullshit. I cut him off. You did know. You just choked. And then I saw the panic behind his eyes. The same look he had the night Kyle died. I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't know what's wrong with me. I reported the incident to the department head. I left out names. Just said I had concerns about a second-year intern's ability to perform under pressure. I suggested more supervision, or a temporary rotation out of the ER. The report vanished. I followed up. Got stonewalled. A week later, I was called back into the same conference room. This time, the hospital administrator was there. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that makes your stomach turn. You've been under a lot of stress, he said. I'm fine, I replied, lying. We think it might be helpful if you took a few weeks off, mental health leave. We're very supportive of that. There it was. The threat behind the kindness. I was being iced out. I didn't take the leave. Instead, I started documenting everything privately. Dates, patient charts, who was on shift, what I saw. I created an encrypted file. I knew if they ever tried to bury another mistake, I'd have proof. But the guilt kept eating at me. And then, one morning, I found an envelope in my locker. No name, no handwriting, just one printed photo. It was Kyle. His face, blue lips, a timestamp. A second later, I realized it was a still from a security camera. A note was paperclipped to the back. You know what you saw. He didn't die on his own. No signature. That photo changed everything. Until then, all I had was my memory, my suspicion, and a sick feeling in my chest. But that image, it meant someone else knew. Someone else had access to the footage. Someone had seen what I saw and maybe more. I stared at it for a long time in the locker room, hands shaking. The timestamp was clear. 2:14 a.m., 3 minutes before Kyle coded. The photo captured Matt, standing over Kyle, syringe in hand, pushing something into his IV. Kyle's eyes were open. He wasn't unconscious. He was awake. That tore the last thread holding me together. I scanned the room. Empty. I shoved the envelope in my bag and got through the rest of my shift like a robot, barely speaking to anyone. Then I went home and locked every door and window in my apartment. I didn't sleep. I just sat there with the photo in one hand and my laptop in the other. Who left it? Why now? Angela? Another nurse? A security guard? I didn't know, but someone wanted me to act. I debated going to the police. But here's the thing, you don't just walk into a precinct and accuse a hospital of covering up a murder. Especially not when you signed an NDA and when the only evidence is a single blurry photo with no provenance. I'd get torn apart. Worse, I could lose my license, my career. Still, I had to do something. So I emailed a reporter. Not just any reporter, Leah Sandoval. She'd done an expose 2 years earlier on a private clinic that was billing for procedures they never performed. Took down half the board. I bookmarked her name for no reason back then. Now, I had one. She responded within 6 hours. We met in a coffee shop 2 neighborhoods away. I wore a baseball cap like I was in some spy movie. She didn't look surprised. So, she said, sipping her drink. You're the one from St. Darius. I blinked. What? You're not the first person to reach out. That made my stomach drop. How many? She shrugged. A few. Mostly nurses. Some clerks. A janitor. Most backed out. Fear. Indiaz. Intimidation. You name it. And you believed them? I believe patterns. And there's a pattern at St. Darius. I slid the envelope across the table. She opened it. Studied the photo. Where did you get this? I don't know. It was left in my locker. She stared at it, then back at me. You realize this alone isn't enough. But it's something. It's a start. We agreed to a plan. I would gather more. I had access logs, timestamps, medication records. I knew which patients had passed through under Matt's care. I dug through 6 months of files, cross-checking charts with recorded doses. I found inconsistencies. Patients listed as receiving meds we didn't stock. Times that didn't line up. CPR attempts that were curiously undocumented. 2 more deaths caught my attention. One was a homeless man with a history of seizures. The other, a woman who came in for a broken ankle, but mysteriously died of cardiac arrest after her surgery. Both times, Matt had been on shift. And both times, there had been sudden technical issues with the cameras. 3 weeks later, Leah published the article. It was carefully worded, heavy on allegations, citing unnamed sources, redacted records, and an anonymous whistleblower. The headline hit local news like a grenade. Air of secrets. Multiple suspicious deaths at St. Darius Hospital under scrutiny. The hospital went into PR overdrive. Statements, denials, legal threats, internal reviews. And Matt disappeared. He didn't quit. He didn't resign. He just vanished. Stopped showing up for shifts. His phone number went dead. The hospital claimed he was on personal leave, but no one had seen him. Not even his roommate. The day after the article dropped, I found another envelope in my locker. This one had no photo. Just a single line. You think you did the right thing, but it's not over. I went straight to Leah. She was already talking to the police. A detective from Internal Affairs reached out to me directly. They asked for my files. The photo, the timeline. I gave them everything. It felt good. For about a day. Then someone tried to break into my apartment. They jimmied the lock. Cracked the outer frame, but I wasn't home. My neighbor saw a guy in scrubs trying to check on me and called the cops. He bolted before they arrived. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in a hotel. Didn't sleep again. Then, just as suddenly as it began, things went quiet. No more notes. No more threats. The police said they were looking into it. The hospital stonewalled everything. Matt remained missing. And Kyle. His parents read the article. They reached out to me through Leah. We met in a diner. His mom cried again. His dad just looked tired. You tried, his father said. That's more than most. They filed a wrongful death suit the next day. But here's the part I didn't see coming. They found Matt's car abandoned 3 states away. No body. No note. No trace. Just a bottle of hospital-grade potassium chloride in the trunk. And a single-used syringe. After the article and the disappearance, St. Darius felt like a haunted house. Every hallway creaked. Every conversation stopped when I walked by. I wasn't just the whistleblower anymore, I was the girl who had ruined careers. Nurses avoided eye contact. Doctors got cold. Even Angela, the one who had warned me before, kept her distance now. I couldn't blame them. I was radioactive. The only reason I hadn't been fired was because Leah's article made that impossible. But they didn't have to fire me to make me miserable. My hours were cut. My shifts were changed. I was moved to nighter, then to psych holds, then to geriatric overflow. Every assignment felt like a message. You don't belong here anymore. Detective Harmon from Internal Affairs called once a week. We're still looking into it, he always said. I knew what that meant. Bureaucracy. Stalling. No arrest. No answers. Matt was still missing. Every day he wasn't found, I felt less safe. I started checking behind my car, carrying pepper spray, leaving lights on. I knew the hospital was trying to bury it all. If Matt was never found, they could chalk it up to mental health, say he cracked, and close the book. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I dug deeper. It became an obsession. After work, I'd spend hours combing the web, hospital records, anything I could find. I learned more about Matt than I ever wanted. He'd worked at 2 other hospitals before St. Darius. At one, a patient had accidentally received the wrong medication and died. The case was inconclusive. At the other, a nurse accused him of being inappropriate. She quit 2 weeks later. There was a pattern. Every few years he'd switch jobs, always just before things got bad. He was a drifter, but a careful one. He kept his trail clean. Then I got an email. The subject line just said, I know who he really is. The message was short. It gave a name, Michael J. Ralston, an address in Indiana, and a photo of Matt but younger, no beard, clean cut, smiling. It didn't come from Leah. It didn't come from the police. It was anonymous. I stared at it for hours. Could it be him? I sent the photo to Detective Harmon. He called me 2 days later. We confirmed it, he said. His real name is Ralston. He changed it legally in 2015. There was a sealed case in Pennsylvania under that name involving euthanasia, but the charges were dropped. He's done this before, I whispered. Possibly more than once, Harmon replied. He's moved across 4 states in 10 years, and now he's vanished again. He didn't answer that. I met with Leah the next day. We were both more careful now. She wore sunglasses. I sat facing the door. This goes deeper than St. Darius, she said. He's a ghost with a license. There's no real federal system that tracks medical staff between states, just state boards. And if you change your name and move, you disappear. We decided to publish a follow-up piece. This time, I agreed to go on record. Use my name, my face. I knew it meant the end of my career. But I didn't care anymore. Kyle deserved better. So did every other patient Matt had touched. The second article hit harder than the first. The nurse with 100 names. How one man exploited America's broken hospital system to kill and vanish. National news picked it up. TV, VOA, podcasts. People started asking hard questions. Hospitals across 3 states launched internal investigations. St. Darius finally suspended Matt publicly this time. They put me on leave the next day. They said it was for my safety. I locked my apartment, triple-checked every window, bought a door camera, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. One night, I came home and found my cat Molly missing. Not a broken window, not a forced door, just gone. And in her place, on my bed, was a single blue nitrile glove. No blood, no note, just the glove. I collapsed to the floor. Molly had been my only comfort, my only family in this mess. And now she was gone, a warning in her place. He was watching. I went to the police again. They couldn't do much. There were no prints, no DNA, no proof it was Matt. Just a shaken girl in an empty apartment. I stayed with Leah that night. She didn't ask questions. She just made tea and left the hallway light on. The next morning, I had another email. From the same anonymous address. You're good, but not good enough. Attached. A video clip. Security footage, clearly hospital, grainy, black and white. It showed me and Matt from months ago, working side by side in the ER. Me laughing at something he said. Him smiling, casual, confident. The message was clear. I was close to him once. I trusted him. And now, he was reminding me that he hadn't forgotten that. I couldn't stop. I couldn't hide. So I went public fully. Leah helped me get an interview on national TV. I told my story. I showed the photo. I showed the glove. I named him, not Matt, Michael Ralston. I made it impossible for him to hide again. 2 days later, I got another message, this one from a different source. A nurse from a hospital in Oregon saw the interview. I said a man calling himself Mark R. had just been hired 2 weeks earlier. She sent a photo. It was him. He'd shaved the beard, cut his hair, gotten new glasses. But it was him. And this time, the police moved. He was arrested in the staff lounge during his lunch break. No incident, no resistance. Just a quiet, calm man eating a tuna sandwich. The news broke within hours. Michael Ralston, alias Matt, arrested in Portland Hospital charged with medical malpractice, identity fraud, and suspected homicide. I watched it unfold on live TV, sitting in Leah's apartment. Cat carrier beside me. Molly had been found, abandoned but alive, at a vet's office 2 towns over. No note, no microchip tampering, just dropped off and left behind like she didn't matter. But she mattered to me. So much. As I held her, I felt it. The fear that had wrapped itself around my ribs for months, it loosened just a bit. The arrest was only the beginning. The Portland police, working with internal affairs, found evidence in Ralston's apartment. A second phone, encrypted files, lists of patient names, aliases, and states. A flash drive contained recordings, conversations with patients, with staff. Some were harmless, but some there were confessions. He admitted to easing pain, accelerating inevitables. He talked about God, about balance, about making sure death had dignity. But it wasn't about dignity. It was about power. A multi-state investigation opened. Over 12 suspicious deaths tied to his time in different hospitals. Most couldn't be proven definitively. No preserved samples, no autopsies. But the patterns were undeniable. Wrong doses, overwritten logs, altered charts. He didn't just slip through the cracks, he used them. I was subpoenaed to testify before a medical board review in D.C. It wasn't a trial, not yet. But it mattered. It was about whether he'd ever be allowed near medicine again, even under another name. When I walked into that room full of white coats and gray suits, I didn't feel small. Not this time. I told them about Kyle, about that night, about how I watched him die, and about how I knew in my gut that something wasn't right. And I told them what Matt said, that haunting line. Sometimes they don't need saving. Just someone brave enough to say goodbye. Ralston didn't speak at the hearing. He just watched me, like I was the one on trial, but I didn't look away. Because I had nothing to hide. He did. They stripped his license permanently. No appeals, no reinstatement. He cried quietly. Not at the decision, but, I think, because he realized his game was over. 6 months passed. The official charges expanded. 2 counts of second-degree murder, 5 counts of negligent homicide, 8 counts of identity fraud, and dozens of ethics violations. I was called to testify again, this time in court. A real trial. Jury died. Cameras. Pressure. Leah coached me through it. She said, "You're not just telling your story, you're telling theirs." She meant Kyle, the other patients, the ones who couldn't speak anymore. I was on the stand for nearly 2 hours. The defense tried to shake me. "Isn't it true you didn't report him until months later? Were you personally involved with him? Did you have a grudge?" I kept my voice steady. No dramatics. Just truth. "He fooled all of us," I said. But I saw the end of what he did and I couldn't stay quiet. The trial lasted 3 weeks. He was found guilty on multiple counts, not all, but enough. He received 68 years in federal prison. No parole. He didn't flinch at the sentence. He just turned to me, sitting in the gallery, and gave the smallest nod, like he respected me now. It made my skin crawl. A year later, Leah won a Pulitzer for the series. She called me crying, said she couldn't have done it without me. I told her it wasn't about the award, it was about the truth. I never went back to nursing. I moved to a new state, new job, different life. But every year, on the anniversary of Kyle's death, I light a candle. And I remember what the attending told me that night. Sometimes, we lose. Maybe. But not this time, because this time, I fought. And I won. For Kyle, for myself, for everyone he might have hurt next. Update 8 months later, someone left flowers on my doorstep last night. There was no card, no name, just one blue nitrile glove tied around the bouquet. But I'm not scared, not anymore. Because if he's watching or if someone else is, they should know. This time, I'm watching back. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.